Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is the second part of episode 2 where I will be talking about the 3 main settings that will appear in my comic. Part 1 is already posted and I talked about the human settings, so if you are interested, I'll link the video somewhere, probably in the description. In part 2, I will be discussing about the beast folk settings. A little fair warning or disclaimer, I am not feeling too good. I have a bit of a migraine behind the eyes, and so I took some painkillers to hopefully dull the pain. Unfortunately, it's still there, so if I seem to talk too slow or a bit too drowsy, that's why. I'm not gonna drag on for too long, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so with the beast folk settings, I decided to go more of a swampy environment, just to show that the beast folks don't really live in a very lavish or I guess safely, I guess. I'm not quite sure. I just wanted to kind of show the contrast between like the humans and the beast folks, and I guess the fae folks, because I think out of the 3, the fae seems to be the more lavish living, and then the humans afterwards, and then lastly the beast folks. So the inspiration that I went with when drawing this landscape is through kind of like tribal forests and also a Celtic mythology, more specifically about druids. So if you guys aren't too familiar with druids, here in the Google search, in pre-Christian times, druids were considered to be like the spiritual practitioners, priests in ancient culture. They mainly proficient more so like medicals and and politics, and they were more nature focused. So you see in a lot of like fantasy genres like Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that, druids tend to be more nature focused, where they can shapeshift into animals, do a bit more like plant control, and also healing and stuff like that. And the one thing that with druids, they don't take very kindly towards people who aren't in their beliefs, I guess. They view them as threats, and so they don't really interact with them, or whenever they encounter one of them, like if they trespass their lands, they will try to essentially scare them off or something like that. And so that's basically what I thought of with the beast folks people. They're not necessarily aggressive per se, but due to their living situation and their survival instincts, they do tend to be a bit more distrustful and will have to resort to violence if it comes down to it. And so with the beast folks, like I said before, they kind of have to live in a very difficult environment. Like they have to survive in order to get by. So here in this drawing, I kind of wanted to portray that, where it's not as flourish or prosperous. They basically have to try to scavenge for food and basically just try to survive. When they were pushed out of their homes, the humans essentially took everything that are more on the richer side when it comes to resources, and then the beast folks basically have to pick up the scraps. Now, it doesn't mean that they're constantly struggling. They do learn how to get by, and they are living as best as they can, but still happily. And so while I was doing a bit more research, I then grew up very interested with Native American traditions, where they're also very spiritual towards nature and that their lands are connected to them. And so I wanted to incorporate that with the beast folks, where when they were being pushed out of their homes, and the Fays essentially were like, we're gonna find a new home where they can't can't find us, will you come with us? But the beast folks, believing that the lands are tied to them and that if they were to leave, they essentially will leave everything behind, like their stories, their spirits, their livelihood, like everything. And so with that strong belief, they decided to stay, despite the struggles that they will have to face. So I guess that's a bit of a vague, not necessarily vague, but a brief description of how I wanted these beast folks to act, I guess, and their way of living. So obviously in the name beast folks, they are essentially people with like animal features, or kind of like a shapeshifters, like bears, wolves, deers, you know, the whole like where they can transform into their animal side, but in their human forms you can clearly see like animal features. But I'm not gonna get too into the details just yet. Like I said in my human video, which is the part 1, if you guys are interested in me making a video talking more details about the beeple or the beast folks, definitely let me know in the comments. I'll most likely will do it because I absolutely love doing like character designs. So yeah. So a bit of the drawing, with this one I definitely went a bit more free reign, not so much having to deal with like perspective so much. What I did is just focus on having a foreground, middle ground, and a background, and then just making sure that everything feels swampy, I guess. Though I feel like I didn't quite capture that too well, only because I feel like it feels more like a deeper, darker forest rather than a swamp. If I had incorporated a bit more some like swampy waters, maybe that could help. But due to the time crunch that I was in while I was doing this drawing, I just had to put something out there for now. So with this drawing, I was definitely feeling a bit more relaxed and less stressed, like how I was with the humans and the face most of all. But I will talk about that in the next part, which will be part 3 or whatnot. Because I think because I was feeling so stressed that I just decided to just draw and don't stop type of deal, where I just let everything out and then don't bother erasing so much and just keep drawing and whatnot. And like I said in my last video, I found out about the polygon lasso tool. So throughout the speed paint, I've been using that polygon lasso tool, and I also was using it to create the shading for the trees, which kind of makes it a bit more blocky, which exactly what I was trying to go for, because if I try to do like more fluid motion, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't really feel very tree-like. And so with the polygon, it definitely helped me kind of get that sort of blocky look to it just right. I definitely learned a lot of new techniques when it comes to drawing landscape, because I don't really do it that often. And so the techniques of how to like shade grass or shade trees or anything like that was definitely a challenge for me. So for the grass, I wasn't quite sure how I wanted it to look, because I don't want to like physically draw every single grass that sticks out of the ground, because that's very tedious. And so what I did was, I like off to the side or off screen, I decided to test out a technique where I did a gradient. I like make a gradient block, and then within the hopefully this makes sense. So like kind of in between the gradients, I kind of eye dropped it, and then I use one of Mark Brunet's brushes, which is I believe the organic brush, one of the organic brushes, and then I just start basically stamping and using the eye drop to make sure that it's kind of blended a little bit, and not so much kind of like a very awkward, like it doesn't feel like it's sticking out too much. I want it to feel like it's blending in with the gradiency and making it feel like it's a field of grass sort of. I don't mind it. I definitely need a bit more practice on that, but it's not too bad. It's actually a pretty neat technique that I found out, and I think I'll be doing that from now on. And thankfully the brushes that I found, that Mark Brunet also kindly provided in his store, that I was like, okay, this is definitely it. And that's pretty much all I can think of for the Beast folks, without actually getting into the people themselves. I would like that to be a separate video, and it might make this video a bit too long than it should be. With landscapes, I don't really have much of a huge knowledge about. I can only talk about like what I did and what I've learned and stuff like that, and so I believe that's pretty much good enough for this video. But overall, I definitely feel a bit more confident with this one. It's not great, but it's not bad at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up this drawing then. So I will see you soon. And this is the final result of the Beast Folk drawing. I'm actually pretty much digging this drawing, especially the lighting that I've added. It definitely brings out the drawing a bit more and giving it more depth. And I forgot to mention about the water, like how I shaded the water. I just saw some references where they just like draw some random lines of a lighter color, and then I just kind of shade, like not shaded, I just start erasing some parts to give it more like a rigid look to it, though I feel like I should have added a bit more depth to the waters rather than just adding like you know, like shadows underneath the ridges, the ridge lines of the water. But other than that, I really hope you guys enjoy this video. This drawing, like I said, it was less stressful. I was able to just relieve a lot of that weight off my shoulder, and I ended up liking it a lot more, especially since this is first time in forever since I've drawn a forest landscape. So definitely stay tuned for part 3, which will be the last part of episode 2, where I will be talking about the Fae Folk land. I'm very excited about that, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.